Hey, Francois here. So, I always have people asking me, I have a spreadsheet and I need to convert it because it's got some data that is not quite clean. So let's have a look. We have the before spreadsheet and it contains lots of issues. As you can see, we have some blank data, blank cells, because yeah, it looks beautiful, but it just means that okay, the region doesn't have to be filled in because it's the same in all the next rows. That's not great. So what we want, because we can't do any data manipulation, right? If we leave it like this. So what we want is to convert it and have all the region a bit better and written properly. So let's see how we can do that. So we're going to fix dirty Excel data using PowerQuery. Let's get started. So here I have a spreadsheet. I am on the SharePoint side, but I can open my spreadsheet. And as you can see, it even has some colors. So that's very pretty, really nice, but not very usable, because if I do anything here, let's say I want to sort by the first column, right, by region. So I will go into data and then I try to find a sort or something of some sort. Here I have sort ascending and it just messes up my data greatly, right? It's not going to work. So let's just cancel that, cancel, and see how best I can do. So first we need to use Excel, like the full version of Excel, not just the web version. So I'm going to open in desktop app. It's loading Excel. So here we have exactly the same Excel, the same spreadsheet in Excel client. And now the second thing we want to do is that we need to convert all this into a table, because yes, Excel is a spreadsheet, but it doesn't actually always have a table. So don't think that this is a table. It's just a representation of lots of cells. But in fact, you can see that it can go to multiple millions of rows. But in fact, it doesn't have the concept of table. So first thing I do is insert and then table. Then he automatically detects me that I can have a table from A1 to I148, and automatically it's detecting that I have header as well. So yes, I'm going to say my table has header. Now it's a table, so it means that if I scroll down already, I can see that instead of having ABC, it's switching to the column name, which is quite cool. But again, if I sort just by salesperson here, everything is kind of missed because I don't know if this Durand is in east, center, etc. So again, cancel that, so everything is back to normal. Now we need to sort this table, this data out. So to do so, we're going to make sure it's saved, but it's normally saved automatically, because remember, we were on SharePoint. If you were saving it on OneDrive, etc., it's saved automatically. So brilliant. So we do a new spreadsheet. So a new spreadsheet is arriving here, Control N. And now I need to load my data inside this spreadsheet. So first I need to make sure that this one is closed. So let's close it. Back to my new spreadsheet. So I'm going to now import it. So to import it, I can do get data from file and workbook. That's it, because the file is somewhere on my computer. I can just import it. But actually, this file is on a SharePoint site. And I can't really use SharePoint folder because that's not the idea here. It's not even saying, oh, Excel, but on SharePoint. So what I'm going to use is other sources, and I'm going to say that it's on the web. So from this, I need to capture to know my web address. Where is my SharePoint site? So let's go ahead and find the address of my SharePoint site, plus, of course, the address all the way to my spreadsheet. So if I go back to my list of file, which is my SharePoint site, I can see that I have one file here. That's the one I want to use. And I'm just going to copy the link. So here's a little trick of what we can do with this. So let's copy that in the clipboard. Back to Excel. I just paste it. And if you click OK, it's not going to work, all right? It's going to fail miserably. So what we need to do is that we know it's an Excel spreadsheet, right? So if you look at the address here, this is the name of my Excel spreadsheet. and it always finishes by XLSX. So here it's fine, it's the name of my spreadsheet. Then we have the name of my folder, so that's correct. And then we have another folder, general, because in fact it's inside a Microsoft Teams. And the library, and then we have the site, but you have something a bit fishy here, right? So again, if you just click OK now, it is going to fail because of that. So this is how to address a file nowadays with sending the link to someone, but when we just address it through Excel, you don't need that. You just need domain, which is my business, and then the site, and all the way to XLSX. Okay, so let's try that. Click OK. It's trying to communicate with SharePoint. It's trying to find out if it can find our spreadsheet. He found it, right? So the address is great. We could even have multiple, so it means we can have multiple spreadsheets inside the file. But in our case, we just created a table, right? So we're going to select this one. And yes, that's exactly the right preview as well. Let's put this down, because the preview is showing me the data and is really showing me that some of the cells are actually empty because they are null. So what we need to do is we can load it directly, but we want to modify it. So we're going to transform the data. So the transform is just to load and edit. And you guessed it, how are we going to edit it? In a tool that is called PowerQuery. So I'm going to move it. It is there, okay. So now we have the preview of my table 1 in PowerQuery. So at the top it says PowerQuery Editor, which is a tool that you can open in Excel and in Power BI, for instance, right? So they are kind of like add-on, if we can say, but the tool is called PowerQuery. And what we're using here is really great because it's going to allow me to change my data very quickly. And in fact, at the top here, you can also see how clean is the data. So do you see this little thing here? It says that there's a green and there's 147, is it? 147 entry valid. But if I go to region, here it's very small. Only 4 are valid. All the rest is empty, so it's not going to work. So you can see that some data are empty, some data are full, etc. So it's already doing an analysis for you, which is fantastic. So what we need to do is to fill in all the blanks here. And we want to fill it in by center, right? Same for this one and the salesperson. So if we were to do it in Excel, we would do copy, then select all the cells, then paste, copy, like huge work. Instead, let's just transform. So what we're going to do is to select the column here and see if there is an action that we can do on this column, right? So transforming it means that we click on transform, we have a look at all the buttons, all the transformation options that we can do. And then you have one called just fill. And do we want to fill down? So do we want center to arrive at the bottom under it, so down, or do we want to do it up? We're going to obviously do down. Let's have a look. Here we go. And if I scroll down, I can see that the east is all filled down all the way. So even if I have 1,000,000 rows, it's going to do it for me. That's great. Let's do the same for client here. So if I go at the top and I have a look at my client, I have this to fill, aerospatial, and then etc. So again, select the column, fill down, and again, salesperson, fill down. Isn't it amazing? So that is brilliant because it's really saving so much time. And we can see that the little preview here on top of client is still telling me that we have only 9 valid because it's still found that there are some issues. Same for salesperson. So let's see if we can, maybe it's a refresh issue, if I refresh everything. Otherwise we can scroll down and have a look at all this. No, it looks like it's only because there's 9 entry, but that's fine because they don't have to be unique. Well, they don't have to be unique in this column, so that's okay. So that's short preview of PowerQuery editor. Now all we need to do is to close and load, because it's going to obviously close PowerQuery and then load it inside my Excel. So it's a new Excel, right? So now you can see it looks a bit like the previous one. It looks totally like the previous one, different color, etc. But I can easily change that. But this time my data is really accurate. So why did we fix that? Because now we can play with the data. We can, for instance, have insert, and I'm going to use a pivot table. So maybe I can use pivot table or pivot chart and make some proper calculation on this data without having so much manual. So now I'm in pivot table, and maybe I want to find out by region and by client how much they amount they had. So oops, let's move this camera. I want to move the amount into value, and now already I have the amount. So that's really cool. And of course we will talk a lot more about pivot table and pivot chart as well in a different webinar. So I hope it was useful. It was all about editing, fixing dirty Excel data using PowerQuery. And yes, as I said, this is something that again was requested this week. Please send up your questions and I will endeavor to answer all this. Thanks, cheers, and bye.